Bro, it's about to get too difficult to film. I need to buy a new tripod because this thing has been growing so many new leaves. He doesn't want to share the space. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome back to Floor Talks with Dakota. Still haven't replaced my tripod, so we're still sitting here, still on the floor. Also, let me apologize in advance for the state of my hair. I'm in that weird, awkward phase of growing it out, so it's a little bit wonky, but that's besides the point. That has nothing to do with today's video. In today's video, I'm gonna be telling you guys how I came up with my name and how you guys can come up with your own names. So this specifically relates to trans people, or actually no, it doesn't. It doesn't even specifically relate to trans people, because I'm sure there are some cis people out there that want to change their names as well. Maybe you guys got named something really weird, like fucking Bartholomew, I guess. I don't know. No offense to anybody out there if your name is actually Bartholomew. I get asked this quite a lot, but recently I've been receiving more and more questions about how I came up with the name Dakota, how I started getting used to my name, if there were ever moments where like I doubted choosing Dakota or anything like that. So I thought that instead of just responding to countless DMs over and over again, I would just make like an all-encompassing YouTube video about it. So yes, let's get right into it. First off, I'm gonna talk to you guys about like the history behind like the name Dakota for me. So when I was a kid, I used to have all of these like online accounts. Like, you know, when you're a kid, you play a bunch of online games on like your PC and stuff. So we're talking Roblox, Club Penguin, Animal Jam, Pop Tropica, all those games. I loved to play on them. I was on them all the time. And when I would play those games, I would create like this, I don't want to say like alter ego, but it was basically like I would pretend that I was a boy. All of my characters were boys. I never ever had like a female character if it was an online game and like I could choose like which one. I always chose to be a boy. And then my name was always some variation of DC. Like for most of my accounts, I would just have the initials DC as my username or as like my player's name. There's no real like reasoning behind the two initials DC. I think at the time I was just big into that brand, that clothing brand, and so I would just kind of like use that as like my little alias online. And then of course, you know, in real life, whenever you're a kid, you play games like House and stuff like that. And whenever I would play House with my friends or with my sister, I was either the dad, or I was the brother, or I was the dog. And no matter what role I was playing, I always went by the name Dax, D-A-X. My dad denies it to this day, but when I was younger, I would ask my parents all the time, what would you have named me if I was a boy? And my dad had two answers. He would have either named me Corey, or he would have named me Dax. He calls me that now, he calls me Dak. So, you know, there's like a bit of continuity there. So yeah, that's how like D kind of started to come into play. That's how I kind of started associating names with that first syllable being D as possible names for myself. So when I started exploring my gender identity and when I started exploring using names other than my birth name, I just kind of gravitated naturally towards names that started with a D. And when I actually came out, my mom and I had a conversation where she asked me to either keep my dead name, because my dead name or my birth name, I don't like saying dead name because I still use that name. So my birth name is Aspen, A-S-P-E-N, and that's a beautiful name. I really love that name. It's very special to my mom. She always told me that I told her to name me that in one of her dreams when she was pregnant with me. And that name is relatively unisex. You know, I haven't seen very many people with that name. However, I have seen both boys and girls with that name in the past. So it's a pretty unisex name, very beautiful name, and it obviously has a lot of importance to my mom. And I was never like upset about that name because again, it's pretty unisex. But because for 18 years that name was associated with a girl, just when I came out as trans, I was like, you know, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I want to start fresh, basically. I don't want to have to hear that name and associate it with what it felt like being a girl. I don't want to do that. So when I first came out, my mom and I had a conversation, and she tried to convince me to keep my birth name, and I didn't want to do that. So then she tried to convince me to keep my name as one that started with an A. So my actually top three choices were Dakota, Asher, or Ashton, I'm not sure which one of those Ash names, and then Andy. My mom really liked the name Andy for some reason. I ended up not liking either of those names, and I just kind of stuck with Dakota. And the way that I found Dakota was actually just searching online through like popular baby boy names for different years, and just going through actual like baby name books that I would find in like Barnes and Nobles and stuff like that. I found Dakota, and I don't know, for some reason it just really jumped out to me. I think it's because it sounded the most similar to Dax. I do have Native American heritage in my family on my mom's side. The name Dakota originates from the Sioux tribes, which is a Native American tribe, and it translates like to friendship and loyalty and ally, and I really like that. I thought it was kind of ironic, you know, ally for the LGBT community, and I just really liked the name. Even though the Sioux tribe is not the tribe that I have ancestry with, I just really kind of liked that little nod to my heritage, and so I kept it. I don't know, I just really like the name Dakota, okay? It fits me. I don't know how else to describe it. I feel like choosing your name is a process that once you find a name that you really like for yourself, it's like, it just clicks. It just instantly, you have this moment of like, oh my God, that's me, like that's my name. Like I mentioned earlier, I do really like my birth name, Aspen. I didn't want to completely get rid of it, again, because of the fact that it's pretty unisex, it's a very pretty name, and it had such significance to my mom. I didn't want to just like wipe it out of existence, and so I decided to keep it as my middle name. So my name is Dakota Aspen. That's what I go by a lot online. You'll see on all of my profiles it says Dakota Aspen. And recently I've actually started kind of asking people to call me either one. So I'm experimenting a little bit with kind of like reclaiming my birth name, I guess. I just feel comfortable enough in myself and in my own identity now that it wouldn't bother me if someone were to call me Aspen, especially because I live in Italy now, and Dakota is very hard for some people to say. So yeah, the name still holds a lot of weight for me. The name Aspen still holds a lot of memories for me. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. So I just, like I said, I feel now that I'm comfortable enough in myself, in my sense of masculinity and everything, I feel like now is a good time to start branching out more. And a lot of people go by their middle name, so it's not really weird for someone to say Aspen instead of Dakota. Some people still go by their birth name. There's a really famous TikToker named Dylan Mulvaney. She goes by her birth name. I'm pretty sure she didn't change her name Dylan. There's another trans guy that I follow on TikTok named Sasha. I'm pretty sure Sasha is his birth name as well. So if you like your birth name, you know, by all means, keep it. There's literally no reason why you can't keep your birth name. If it's something that you feel is unisex, or if it's something that you feel like there's no need for you to change it, that's totally fine. Some people change their entire name, some people only change their middle or their last names. Like, it literally does not matter. Your name is your own to do with it whatever you want. My best advice that I can give to people who are kind of struggling with figuring out their name right now is just to test them all out. If you like a name, even just the tiniest bit, test it out. Imagine yourself being called that name, or ask your friends or your family if they're supportive enough to call you by that name. I would definitely look up, something that was really fun for me to do when I was looking at names was I would Google my birth year, 1999, and then I would look up like popular boy names in 1999, popular baby names in 1999. And so that was really cool to kind of see like what the trend was when I was born. I also know that there are some people who name themselves after like their favorite characters in like a book or a TV show or a movie that they really enjoy. That's fine too, you know? Literally, who gives a shit? A name is just a name. At the end of the day, if it suits you and if you feel a connection to it, great, use it. The only thing that I would like recommend against, obviously, is if the name has some sort of like negative connotations or anything like that for like a person or a group of people. Obviously that's bad. We don't want to support anything like that. But for the most part, like, who gives a shit? You can always change it back if you end up not liking it, you know? That's another thing that I tell people all the time. Like, if you don't like your name, you can literally just start going by a different name. Even if you've already legally changed your name once, depending on how easy the process of changing your name is in your country or wherever you live, obviously you can go change it again, but that's kind of a hassle, and a lot of people go by nicknames or other names, you know? So if you end up not liking the name that you chose for yourself and you like a different one and you've already changed your name legally, who gives a shit? Just start going by the other name as a nickname. Just test it out. Just test the waters all the time. It's a lot easier than you think once you've decided on a name that suits you. So I hope this video was helpful. If you have any other questions or if you want any more tips or advice or anything like that, you can absolutely hit me up in the comments down below, or you can DM me on Instagram. If you chose your name in a different way, or if you decided to keep your birth name, let us know in the comments as well. I'm sure some other people may be thinking about keeping their birth name and would like to hear from somebody who maybe kept it. That's all I really have to say about this topic. It's not really like an in-depth topic, because to me, like, choosing your name isn't really like that big of a deal, I guess. Not in the sense of like it's not a big deal, but in the sense of like you have the creative freedom to go out and do whatever you want, basically. So pick something cool. You know, if you want to name yourself fucking Apollo, go for it. That's a sick fucking name. Like, that's dope. So yeah, try not to take it too seriously. There's a lot of different variations, spellings of names, classic names, cool names, new names, you know. Just go out, have fun, test stuff out, you know. Nothing is ever set in stone permanently. You can always change it later on. That's the best advice that I can give you. If you guys thought this video was helpful, or if you enjoyed it, go ahead and click the thumbs up button. It really helps me out with the algorithm and stuff like that. And if you're new here and you're not subscribed to my channel yet, go ahead and click the subscribe button down below. We are on the road to 10K, almost to 7,000 right now, I think, which is really, really crazy. So thank you guys so much for your continued support, and I will see y'all in the next video.